Well, hello, everyone. For those of you just joining us, my name is Ashley Craven, and I am the marketing director of Griffin House. And today I am delighted to be sharing the screen with Dr. Angela Searcy today. Angela Searcy is one of our latest authors. She actually just published a book called Push Past It, which launched today, May 1st. Which is incredibly exciting. So today, as part of her official book launch, we wanted to chat with you all about her book, Push Past It. And once you do go there, join Early Learning Book Chats. That's our Griffin House little club, our little spot on EdWeb. You can join our community on EdWeb. And like I said, it is completely free and you get tons and tons of free resources ranging from webinars like today's recording, all of our previous recordings with other early childhood experts. You can earn CE certificates for each of the webinars that you view. You can download chat logs and slides. You can join in on discussions, and you can also chat with our authors, post questions there, and we always circle back with our authors to make sure your questions are consistently answered. So edweb.net/book chats, definitely join us. And like I mentioned earlier, so today's webinar is sponsored by Griffin House Books. So Griffin House is an award-winning publisher of books intended for children or parents and teachers of children ages 0 to 8. And our books are filled with easy-to-use strategies, tips, and tools to really help bring the joy of learning to young children. And excitedly, we have new books for this spring 2019, one of which, as you will see, is Angela Searcy's Push Past It, like I said, which launched today. So we're incredibly excited for that. So during today's webinar, she will obviously talk much more about her new title. Another cool thing that we are offering, so as a special offer for those of you who are joining us today, you can get 20% off of your entire cart at griffinhouse.com. So that's 20% off Angela's new book, Push Past It. That's 20% off everything site-wide. So just go to griffinhouse.com and use the code BOOKCHATS at checkout for your 20% off. And so Angela Searcy, she is an incredible woman. She is the expert on, you are, she is an expert in so many ways, especially ways to create nurturing and positive strategies for helping children and helping teachers with challenging behaviors. So she has tons of experience, and she has her BA in English and Secondary Education with a teacher certification through the state of Illinois. She has an MS degree in Early Childhood Development from Erickson Institute with a specialization in infant studies. So her expertise really ranges across the board. She's a doctorate, importantly, in education with a specialization in assessment and response to intervention. So she has been in the field for quite some time. So she began as an educator in 1990, and she also is the owner and founder of Simple Solutions Educational Services. So she really has experience at all levels of education. Like I said, she specialized in infants. She specialized and learned much more for a broad range of ages. She is also an author of, for us, Griffin House, which we're incredibly excited about. And she's a nationally recognized speaker. So she speaks at events all across the country. So make sure you keep a lookout for her if you are attending conferences. She's been featured in Chicago's WGN Channel 9 News. In fact, we have those segments on our website, griffinhouse.com. You just click on Angela Searcy's name to check out those spots, Chicago's Public Radio, and much, much more. So like I said, Angela is our expert. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Dr. Angela Searcy. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Well, thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here and to delve into this topic for us to push past it. Everyone has, you know what? We are friends from going forward. So I have my contact information here, my email. I think I'm the only one that has AOL because I never changed my email from when I, first got an email. I get emails and contact, emails and questions all over the country, from everywhere. This is actually my cell phone, you guys. I go to bed about 9 o'clock. So, so feel free. We have such a short time together, but if you have a question after the workshop, you could definitely contact me. I also have a YouTube channel. I have a video. I have several video playlists, but one of them is social emotional problem solving, which is a total of 71 examples of how to build social skills. Is that not exciting? So don't go out Friday night. Okay. Well, anyway. I also noticed that we have educators, therapists, parents that are on today. So I have information for parents, medical appointments, and bedtime routines, and therapists on how to do their therapy appointments, and teachers in the classroom. So I cover the wide range of programs and people that I work with as well. Okay. I already shared on my social media my author page. My author page actually has free resources that you can download. So feel free to just kind of, if you're a social media person, you could be my friend, you can join in, definitely kind of type and give me questions. I love to hear from you. We are friends going forward. I will help you push past it. So don't worry. I'm there for you. I have teachers that even text me and say, I'm trying the idea and honey, I just can't push today. And I'll send back a text like, you can do it. So, feel free, definitely. I'm excited to connect with you. All right. Well, let's kind of get to our content. And the reason that we're here today is that we know teacher fact number 18. And for teachers, your most challenging student will never be absent. They will be there early. They will stay late. And guess what? Wait for it. They have siblings. So whether you're a teacher, whether you're a therapist, me and my husband have 4 children, ages 13 to 23. Oh, honey, yes, I live challenging behaviors. We had some this morning. So we know that I just want to make sure that you have the skills to be able to deal with that challenging student or your own challenging child or that child in that therapy appointment or medical appointment. I'm here for you. All right. So we know that, oh man, challenging behaviors can be messy. So I'm going to actually kind of use those same steps we use for our laundry list to help us clean up our act. We're going to first sort out your feelings. So this is the first step to any good behavior plan that's often missed. What about the adult's feelings? Then we're going to run things through the meaning-making machine. So I'll be able to answer your questions, but questions are always answered best after it goes through meaning-making, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Lastly, instead of drying honey, we got trying time. You know that drying clothes takes cycles, right? And so what I'm going to talk about with you are the cycles for actually supporting that trying machine that you're going to be at the end of this webinar. All right, you guys ready to jump in? All right, let's go. Let's first start with sorting out our feelings. So as mentioned earlier, I've been a teacher. I've been a therapist. I am a parent. And I felt frustrated as an educator, for example, when the parent says they don't act like this at home. I was like, are you serious? Really? Are you in denial? So I felt those frustrations working with families. I've also felt as an educator or a therapist trying to fit in therapy goals or trying to fit the curriculum into a single school year. It is overwhelming. And you have challenging behaviors. Oh man, it's a lot. Can you feel me? Come on, everybody. Kind of type in, chat in if you can kind of relate to what I'm talking about. Now, I want everyone to raise your hand if you've ever been personally victimized by short staffing. It happens every day, doesn't it? And especially if you're a leader on this call, a Monday or a Friday. Oh, especially after a holiday, short staffing could be an issue as well that gets in the way of us dealing with challenging behaviors. And even though I am a consultant, I've been in that space where I'm an educator or a therapist, and somebody come in like a mental health consultant and tries to explain my classroom to me. And right, have you ever been there and regurgitate the strategies I already tried? So I sometimes, what happens when we have all these feelings, we shut down. Don't we? We just kind of shut down, like this picture here where we just kind of stare into space. Like, what do you really think I'm about to do these strategies? So let's really jump in and really kind of sort out our feelings. And this webinar is going to go where few workshops have gone before, because behavior planning is an intellectual and emotional enterprise. Okay, so let's fly off, like, if you're a Trekkie, fly off into this space and being able to deal with our emotions. So a couple of things. Positive emotions like passion for your work, excitement, creativity. Oh my gosh, my animation are assets in the field of early childhood education, right? They're assets if you're a teacher or if you're a therapist. However, negative emotions, they aren't necessarily bad, but they can really get in the way when we're behavior planning. And if we're not processing those negative emotions, with children, they actually can trigger feelings in us. Okay. Especially tell me if you've had this experience with in your growing up. My parents didn't really let me process my feelings all the time. If you had a parent who was just like, hush up those tears, or I'll give you something to cry about. Oh, give me an amen. So what happens is, because we haven't thoroughly processed our feelings when we were children, right? It really triggers feelings in us when we see children exhibit those same feelings. Okay. So that's why, because we've learned, and I learned this too, guys, how to bottle up our own feelings, then, oh man, do they boil over when that 2-year-old comes up to you and says, no, right? Right. That's what 2-year-olds say, don't they? No. I actually walked in a classroom last week, in a 2-year-old room and a toddler room. And I walked in and the children said no. And I didn't ask. Okay. So what we have to remember is that, yes, Felicia, young children are co-regulators. You are so right. And just like a tandem bike, wow, you can't talk about child emotions without talking about adult emotions, because they operate, right, in tandem with one another. And you can't maneuver one without maneuvering the other. So we really have to dig into what we're feeling first. Okay, so let's do some more digging, guys. All right, here. So here's as a teacher, here's my great, wonderful lesson plan. I picked this out. I set it up lovely. It's beautiful. And then reality hits. Okay, give me an amen. Have you ever had this happen to you? Okay, so as we think about this kind of negativity, boy, we could just boil over. You've ruined my activity. I can't do anything because of you. You are so frustrating. And we feel that, like we said, for parents, right? We have all these feelings like, why can't you just follow what I'm saying? Why are you sabotaging me? And here's the thing, is that we all have negativity bias. This is something that's normal and that's natural. Okay. And I didn't really know this until I started studying more about the brain. And so what happens is that it's a natural mechanism for survival. I mean, you have to remember that a cactus has needles, right? We're not to sit on a cactus again. So what happens is that part of our brain, through evolution, which helped us to survive, actually makes it more difficult when dealing with challenging behaviors. So survival depends on our attention to the negative part of something. Our emotional brain processes information before our rational brain. Negative emotions involve more thinking, which is why when I have an argument with my husband, I can remember back to like 2001, where our argument took place, what he was wearing, where he was standing, and what he's like, how do you know this? Did you take notes? It's because everyone remembers negative things more strongly and in more detail. When we talk about dealing with families and we're talking about dealing with young children, bad impressions and bad stereotypes are quick to form, but they are very resistant to change than good ones. So as a therapist, I had a child that I worked with who got in trouble when he was absent. How did he get in trouble when he was absent? Is because he's the bad kid. The kids knew it. The other families knew it. He's the bad kid, which is why he was absent and still he did it, right? And so, but what did that do to the family? When they called and said, your child's in trouble, and then that parent heard that, and then she said, my child's not even in school. You people are incompetent, right? It ruins the relationship. And actually, these negative feelings, which are really common and easy patterns to get into, are actually the most primitive part of our brains and actually can erode productivity and decision making. So let's really kind of think about how do we deal with all these negative feelings. All right, we got to get out of the teacher's lounge. So the teacher's lounge, people are like, what kind of fancy place do you work? Okay, so really in reality, as an educator, come on, give me an amen. The real teacher's lounge is probably a broom closet where you hang up your coat, right? Come on, tell me if that's the truth. The teacher's lounge isn't a place, honey, it's a mindset. Okay? So what is that mindset? It's that mindset where you're just kind of saying, those kinds of things in your head, like, maybe this program isn't for this child, right? This child is having all those negative, these negative behaviors. Maybe this place isn't for him. Well, then you got to check for bias, because here's where Mr. If you're a Trekkie, you know that. My husband reminded me of that. Mr. Spock is the logic, right, that comes about when we're feeling really emotional, is that, hey, you know what? Special education isn't a place children go to. It's a set of services we can bring to any place, right? Okay. Or I've had feelings like back in the day, kids didn't act like this. Like this is some kind of crisis. Like what's going on with these kids today? Because when I was I'm old school, right? Right? So, but check that, right? Because if you're just thinking about the negative things about the present and only remembering the positive things about the past, come on, logic. There's positive and negative to the past as well as the present, right? There's not just one thing, okay? Is your assessment objective? Are you assigning blame? Well, if they would just listen, we wouldn't have this problem, right? You're assigning blame to, if they would just go to bed on time, we wouldn't have this issue. Are your feelings based on observable facts? Well, they don't act like that at home. Okay. Well, have you even been to their home? Unless you've been to their home and sat there and observed, maybe they don't act like that. Actually, I had that happen with my son. Is that karma? I tell you, karma is something. Is that my son, actually, I was a teacher first and then I had children. And then guess what? He didn't act like that at home. And it was because it was a smaller setting. It was because it was, right? Less children, less noise. It was how I handled the situation, right? So children may act differently, just kind of take that emotion, acknowledge your own bias. I have to acknowledge, am I really biased here? Is this really true? So I put questions next to things that I'm thinking, and strength-based. We have to look at what's right. So actually, when you all look at my Meaningmaking Machine form, and then it's in my book, you can get it, like I said, for free. Come on, guys. It's free on my author page, right? Is that I actually ask the question on the behavior plan, what is a child's strengths? Because if you just look for what's wrong, honey, you can't get to what's right. And it's going to impede your problem solving. Okay, come on, give me some feedback, everybody. Keep chatting in that chat room. So right now, I remember me as a teacher, okay? I am clutching my pearls. Said, me? Bias? What? Right. I'm doing it I do it often, not just Not in this situation only. What? What do you mean? And so here's a couple of things that we have to think about. I'm not attacking your moral character. I'm biased as well. And guess what? I read in an article recently, if you have a brain, honey, you are biased. Everyone is biased. The brain looks for patterns in the environment. So we all have the potential to be biased, especially when there's a challenging behavior. Here's some research. I'm not going to read it out to you, but I'm just going to bring out some key things to get you thinking in terms of just some statistics. And these are just, ones based on race. So in 2015, there was a research study in which they gave, student records like traditional, African-American names like Deshaun, and then traditional kind of like Caucasian names like Greg or Jake. And the pattern showed that teachers were more likely to categorize those Black names that actually didn't even belong to Black students as troublemakers. So we're all just trying to check, right? We're all just trying to make sure. Or there was another study, and this one was very recent, 2016, and it showed that, again, teachers, when they looked at images of Black, and Black children, male and female, teachers mistakenly viewed emotions for Black faces as negative. Okay, now we're talking about race here, right? But listen to this one. This is another research study. This was from 2018. So it's very recent. And this one was from 2016, which shows that, because I would think, well, I'm a Black woman. I'm not biased. I will go, listen to this information and go back to my room unaffected. But research from 2016 showed a study from Yale that teachers of all races are biased. And the Black teachers actually tended to be even more harsh on Black students than even their white counterparts, and recommended more harsh discipline. Whoa. I know, right? And this is just about race. I know, Felicia, like 5-year-olds, really? Janet is like, what? So what we have to think about here is that, yes, if you're that special person that's not awesome, that's not biased, I say awesome. I wish more children had that type of experience. But I am biased. So what I would have educators do is write down, and I did this, write down the names of the children that challenge you. And then look and see if there's any type of pattern. Are they all, a particular race? Are they all girls? Are they all boys? When I did this as an educator, guess what my bias was? They were mostly boys. I had very few girls on my list. And that's because I was shocked because bias doesn't fit with your moral values. It's not congruent with that. Of course, I value girls and boys, but these are implicit biases that are kind of hidden, and we all have them, and sometimes they sneak up on us. So what I had to do was realize that I discipline behaviors by boys more harshly. Hey, I was more comfortable in the housekeeping area, and that can go dark, right? The housekeeping area, that girls, you're not my friend and you can't come to my party. But honestly, I felt more comfortable with those behaviors as opposed to boys who did more rough and tumble play in the block area. I also noticed I spent more time in the housekeeping area than the block area. I usually would spend time putting out fires in the block area. I really had to look at myself and then come to terms with the fact that I was biased and that we all have them. All right. So when you feel that frustration, or hey guys, it's not just race, it's not just gender. We all have biases, right? It could be a bias that, oh man, back in the day, right? I'm old school. Or it could be a bias, well, I'm okay, and people put me in timeout. And right, it could be lots of bias that comes up. So when you feel that pain of a challenging behavior, the first thing I want you to do is push. So push past it, pick out the positives. What are the positives about that child and their family? Understand everyone's perspectives. Did that 2-year-old really come to school today thinking they were going to ruin your day? Seek out neutral support. avoid the teacher's lounge, right? I appreciate you being supportive of me, but I really don't think that child is out to destroy me, right? Holding out everyone's attentions. Is the family intending to sabotage your plan? Are they really planning this out and thinking about it? Ask questions. Did that child sleep? What's their home life like? Are they pushing people because at home people push them? Often we say that children are having a challenging behavior for no reason. And it's a reason that isn't congruent with our own perspective. Right? So I had a child with oh my gosh, I tell the story about a child, my first really challenging behavior that really stumped me in 1996. I had lots of challenging behaviors, but this one really stumped me. And the reason is because I found out more about the child's history. I found out that the child was actually a witness to domestic violence. And I found out that the child was actually in a shelter. When you're in a shelter, if someone comes near you, you better save your stuff. Right? So you start pushing and shoving kids immediately. So what I ended up doing with this child, once I started asking more questions, is I would protect his stuff. Like if a child was coming near him, oh man, because he would protect it, and he was protecting it by biting people, right? And so if someone was coming near, I'd be like, it's okay. We're gonna save your stuff. We're gonna save your stuff. We're gonna keep it all protected. And then I would get out like a blanket, or a piece of fabric, and I would say, let's put a few of your special blocks here. And the other blocks are for other kids. But once they're on a piece of fabric or, using tape or on a tray, then that is your space. That is your protected space. And then we talked with all the children about space protectors and space invaders. And we really made it playful and fun. Also, take a step back. I'm super animated. Have you noticed? Doesn't work well in challenging behaviors. When I'm like, oh, I could be actually making the situation worse with my response. And so once I change my response, the child may change their behavior. I tend to actually approach children from bending down behind the child, right? And kind of soothing them, not face to face because I know myself. Take care of yourself. So here in the next slides are some examples of just taking care of yourself. Okay. All right. First, let me go through the feelings first, and then I have the examples. So they're coming, you guys. Here they come. So first, here are the examples that we're feeling that are really emotional. This kid's never absent. It's going to be the worst year of my career. These troublemakers aren't going to destroy me. Thank goodness I got my resignation letter in the car. Let me just date that bad boy and sign it, and I'm out of here. Beam me up, Scotty. Right? I know you've done that. I've done it too. But in the end, you know what? Let me actually go back and skip the slide. But in the end, here comes Mr. Spock with our logic. This child is getting to know you and learning how to regulate. Let's try not to add to the chaos. You've got this, honey. You are not alone. We are friends forever. Feel free to email me, contact me, Facebook me, text me, right? We can work this out together. No parent says, I can't wait to mess this kid up, right? They're doing the best they can. Hey, if they could get the kid back to earlier, they could. I've known some parents who live with other people and they don't even have control over their home. That them and their child lives in a household that stays up till midnight. And even with the best of circumstances, they can't turn down the noise in that house because they're not control over that. They live with grandma. Or they live in the basement. We really have to view things from other people's perspectives. Okay. All right. So just another slide for us to think about. And, Kathleen, you're just really getting to the whys, right? Biting is because, children don't have language, right? And I just want to give you, that's so right. Kathleen from Minnesota said that. So I want to give us a reframe of some of our most challenging challenging behaviors. Okay. So a teacher says to me, oh, well, this is a 2-year-old child. And she says, Angela, he's doing it on purpose. the kid looks at me while he's hitting people in the head and throwing toys. He knows what he's doing. Are you serious? And then what I had to do is pull out my Mr. Spock. And I said, can this child play hide and seek? And she's like, what? Well, no. I mean, we could, but I would see them. Have you ever played hide and seek with like a 2 or 3-year-old and you have to like pretend you can't see them? Come on, guys. Have you had that happen where you're like, I can't see you. Ah. And you can clearly see the child like in this picture here. Come on, tell me if you can relate. Come on, give me some amen if you could actually relate to that experience. If children can't play hide and seek and have that cognition, they don't have the cognition to manipulate you. Boom. Come on, let's get our logic on, everybody, and push. Whining is winning. They just use their words. Come on. They're cursing like a sailor. Just teach them the right words to use. Hey, they've made an accomplishment. Now they're not hitting. They're not. Hey, what about the kid who doesn't do bad things, but now says bad things? Moving forward, you guys, they moved forward. This is progress. Aggression is an opportunity to learn alternative ways to behave. If children are not aggressive, they do not learn the alternative. So research by Dr. Tremblay, he's from Canada, and Richard Tremblay, and he showed, really researched aggression. And what it showed is that aggression is your default. Once you learn how to be aggressive, you're aggressive. If we had children in the jungle, they would all be aggressive. That's why adults are here, for them to learn new ways of behaving. And the age of 3, that end of infancy, so 2.5 to 3.5, is where aggression peaks. Okay, that's where they learn the skill. If they weren't aggressive, they wouldn't learn the alternative. Okay, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? Keep typing in. I know you guys got questions. Like, wait, okay, where are the strategies? Okay, Angela, kids are supposed to be aggressive. Come with some strategies for me, please. Okay. First, you got to take care of yourself. You charge your phone 24/7. Charge yourself. And I just have this teacher has this posted, how to cheer up. Whisper beep bop, beep bop, beep bop to yourself and repeat until not sad. It's a good reminder for children and adults. Here's some strategies for that staff lounge. I use this as a trainer, a coach, a teacher. Oh, parents, boy, do you need some chill pills. They're just candy, right? But somewhere, bang head here. Okay. A pep talk in the staff lounge. Stress relief. I gave that to some of my therapy families. They got stress relief bubbles. And hey, every teacher, every parent, every therapist, hey, you're all fighting. Yeah, be kind, everyone, because we're all fighting burnout, aren't we? Come on, give me some amens. Everyone is trained on this kind of push past it, positive, right, kind of way of thinking. So the bananas that you see in this picture is that the whole staff was trained, including the food service staff. So what they ended up doing is they wrote positive words on the bananas for the kids and for the teachers. They wrote it for all. Staff, excellent, awesome staff, enter here. It takes so much to make it through a day when you have children with really challenging behaviors. Can I get an amen? This is the most challenging time in human development, guys, right? Okay, I see some amens. All right. So I hope I'm not going too fast. Definitely type in the chat box if I need to slow down. But now we're actually going to get to some tools, okay? Because we have, I want to leave time for questions. All right. So often when I've had challenging behaviors, like I mentioned, the little boy who actually, he bit a chunk out of a child's face, you guys. It was so challenging. A child went to the hospital. There were tears. We were so frustrated. And people started giving me solutions without really delving and understanding the problem. So make sure that no one will give you advice before they understand the actual problem itself. Human behavior is very, very complex. It is based off of how you respond, the other kids respond, right? So we had a child that was cursing and, cursing like a sailor, you guys. And the other kids were like, ooh, 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 you are cursing. Okay, guys, come on now. The kids were reinforcing the other kids' behavior. So we actually limited the cursing by having the children make an art activity called teasing shields, and that's actually on that YouTube playlist that I have on my YouTube channel for social skills. And so they made these like shields, and we talked about superheroes and how they protect themselves from challenges, and we talked about how you protect yourself from challenging behaviors. And the kids like made these art shields, and then we talked about the skill of ignoring. That's what we're going for. And it took about, like, I would say a good eight weeks. And the kids slowly began to move into just ignoring the behavior, not saying, ooh, 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 kind of thing, but just ignoring it. So, oh yes, Imani, an alternate vocabulary. Those kind of skills and preventions are really, really important. So I have a sheet here. Wait, let me go back for a second. Is that when you have a challenging behavior, you have to run it through the meaning-making machine. So here is our second step. Here's the meaning-making machine. And this meaning-making machine is everything you need to understand what is the challenge behind the behavior. What's the behavior itself? How often does it happen? What happens right before? Any lifestyle changes, consequences, and strengths of the child and the family, and purpose that you think of the behavior. Now, someone mentioned that they wanted to know how to deal with multiple behaviors. So you want to make sure that you are using the meaning-making machine to know what strategy to do. And you can download this for free. So Tracy had a question, was like, should we ignore everything? Not necessarily. It depends on the meaning behind the behavior. If the child is seeking attention, ignore. If the child is seeking, a tangible object, ignoring won't work. If a child is avoiding sensory stimulation, that's a different strategy than ignoring. It depends on the meaning of the behavior, which is often why you just can't just get strategies without understanding the meaning behind the behavior. Most behavior strategies fail because they don't understand the meaning. So you have to just clean up that mess. You got to run it through that meaning-making machine. And you may need to do it for several cycles. Adrienne mentioned she's used the ABC chart, and they're great. This one I think is unique because it's not blank. That's the first one. I know someone handed me an ABC chart that was blank. I was like, girl, what you want me to do with this? And so I give you suggestions and space to write. Also, you want to make sure that you have the lifestyle. You also want to think about the strengths of the child. Often I see ABC charts that don't even mention the strengths of the child or the family. Right? So remember that you can get this for free off online. You can, and I explained all about the meaning-making machine and how to look at it. This is a picture of a child, and this is their house. This is an actual visual representation of their home. Because 9 times out of 10, the story behind a misbehavior won't make you angry. It will break your heart. Right? Yes. This is true. Children are hitting because they don't get attention at home. They're crying. They haven't had sleep. And this family has strengths. If you actually look at this picture very closely, there are 2 parents or there are 2 adults there. Boom, boom, strength. Right? There are strengths there. There's a book in there. There's strengths. Come on, guys. All right. The other piece, and we're going to be wrapping up soon, I'm going to end with some strategies, is sometimes we're getting in the way. We want kids to sit quietly, and that doesn't fit with development, right? Sometimes the hardest thing is just realizing how we're contributing to that challenging behavior. Avoid self-sabotage. Directions are opportunity for connections. I don't tell a child, go to sleep. I say, can you find your sleep? And I get a flashlight. We search around the room. I say, can you find my bubbles? and I'll put the bubbles on there, right, for their nap time for bed. I'll just put a tiny thing of bubbles, right? I get tons of bubbles from the from the party store. And if you're an administrator, I suggest getting them in bulk. If a child runs away when you say it's time to come in from recess, I don't say come here. I say, where is my friend? Where is my friend? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I just start singing. A kid go underneath a table. I don't grab them. Well, I used to, but it doesn't work. Grab them and try to get from under. If you don't get from under, you know I'm being observed. I will keep. No, right? I don't do that. I start taking out. This is a picture you see to your left of a teacher. The child crawled underneath the table. And what she did is she got his favorite puppet. And she just put the puppet in front of the table. And she's just had the puppet on her hand. And the kid's like, that's my puppet. Right? And then she says, this is to get this puppet. Guess what? It's a cleanup puppet. It's a cleanup puppet. He came from under the table immediately, started laughing, and then he got the puppet. And she said, if you clean up, you can have the puppet. He's a cleanup puppet. And she started singing and cleaning up with the child. That's not about directions. That, my friend, is about making a good connection. Children hug their dinosaurs when they get in line. So what the teacher does is she has a box of dinosaurs and she has them near the line and she changes it up to dinosaurs, cars, right? And then the children have to pick up gently their dinosaur. Oh, they love getting in line. They pick up they hold their dinosaur so gently. Don't drop it. Don't drop it. They hit no one. They're so excited to hold their dinosaur. They're quiet as a mouse. Circle time is group time, clean up. They're not expectations, honey. They're invitations to play with me. If they're not friends, you need some friendship lotion. And please don't spray quiet spray on children. We just spray it in the air, and the noisiest children spray it in the air. It is water and vanilla extract, you guys. And when it's empty, they still spray it and it still works. Make circle time interactive. It's not about directions. Make the children take the lead. Make connections. Give. When you have a child that has challenging behavior, we always think about taking away from them when you should give to them. Give them a job. Be the greeter. This is a real picture for one of the sites that I actually consult with. The little boy with that orange hat is the greeter. And he's got you'd be surprised. He's got he can pow. So we're happy he's shaking hands, you guys. All right. After you run it through the meaning-making machine, you have 3 steps. Change you, change the child, and change the consequences. I'm going quickly, but remember, you have this PowerPoint to digest later, and we will ask questions. First, change you. Develop a relationship and see what you can change in the environment. And on this slide is tons of examples. If children aren't in line, maybe they don't know how, right? Give some wiggle room with tape. Use a class noisometer. Cover something up with, and some of these, Jen, can work with older and middle school students, but you have to adapt. So I adapt. These are geared towards children 0 to 8, but definitely I've taught high school, I've taught 6th grade, I've taught 8th grade. So I could definitely give you guidance on how to adapt these strategies. All right. Then, right, remember developing that relationship. Loving leads to learning new ways of behaving. And I'm going to finish up in the next 2 minutes so we can actually get to some good questions. Okay. All right. I use paper clips. And then every time I say a negative word, I lose a paper clip. If I don't have paper clips at 9:15, I'm negative. Assess yourself. All right. To change the child. Behavior is a signal of what skills you need to teach. All behavior is communication. So friendship color mixing. Just because you put them in a room together doesn't mean they're going to be friends. You have to work towards that. Friendship salads, right? A peace table. We have peace tables in all classrooms from 3 years old all the way up. For big kids, we have a peace table. For preschool, we have a peace table. Every room has peace table rules. We have books like You Get What You Get, Honey, when kids are having trouble with sharing. We have calming boxes. We have counting cards, waiting to take a turn, cool down cubes. We have all these strategies to teach new skills, because telling isn't teaching a skill. Just because you told them what to do, now I'm talking about teaching it. Teach it with games, teach it with fun things like dragon breathing. We use art projects. In the history of calm down, everyone doesn't calm down just because you told them to calm down. Like, never, that doesn't work, guys. But dragon breathing or make tacos, those are all the ingredients that you can use. And I got these just from Pinterest. I shared at the end of the PowerPoint where I got these kind of downloads and free things. These visuals, right. Yeah, Erin, don't the visuals kind of bring it all to life? Where I've got it, some things are conscious, other curriculums maybe that you've seen. I use all of them. Games. And then change your response. Reflect on how you respond to a child. Wheel of choices. Cranky lotion works for toddlers. You just get lotion and just slap cranky on it. And it seems to work. Bugs and wishes. These are great ways, and some of these things are familiar to some of you. These are great ways to think about, how do you respond? Are you responding with negativity? Or are you responding with tools like the shake 'em up, like kind of like the shake up bottle, where children are really upset and they just shake it up? Like, what do you give them to support them? All right, I promise I'm going to have time for questions, but I just want to do one more slide for drawing time. You guys okay? We're just going to do drawing time. And everybody wants to skip ahead to the part where they're awesome. And so do I. But on my meaning making machine, I give a warning. This is a continuous cycle for 4 to 6 weeks. Yes, honey, whatever strategy you use, you must do it for 4 to 6 weeks. Children need time to adjust to your new strategy. You need time to adjust to your new strategy. Behavior gets worse before it gets better. And lastly is strategies. I hear all the time, well, this strategy doesn't work. Honey, strategies don't work. You work. You work the strategy. Willingness to try the idea as it was intended and consistently. Frequently engage in implementation. Reflect on the results consistently with your team. And keep focus on progress, not perfection. Adapt ideas that I've shown you over time, just like those cycles in your dryer. Sometimes you have to start it up a couple of times, especially when it's really messy. All right, everyone. So I gave you some of my resources. I just download things. Challenging Behavior is free. Challengingbehavior.org. These are just free resources. I have resources on my author page that are free. I definitely am here to support you if you have questions later. But now let's open this up. It's time for questions.
Hello. Thank you so much, Angela. I loved that. And your passion for children and your presentation was just amazing. I was just enthralled the whole time. That was great.
Thank you.
So thanks for joining us, everyone. So we did get a good bit of questions really across the board. And so, Angela, I know that you already answered one question a minute ago without maybe even meaning to. One person was asking, are these strategies particular to preschoolers or, early childhood? And you had mentioned, you've taught children of all ages, you've taught high school. And so it might take a little bit of tweaking of some of these things, but for the most part, your strategies seem pretty straightforward. But is there anything else you'd like to say to that?
I would just say that just connecting with other educators can help you think about how you'll adapt the strategy, and talk to your team at your school. It does take this repetitive cycle of talking and collaborating and adjusting over time.
Yeah, that's good. So someone asked this question, and this could be a brain buster. What's the best way to deal with a class that has multiple children with challenging behaviors?
Well, in a typical classroom, you usually have, and I'm just saying average, of about 20 for little kids. Older kids, it could go up to 30. And you typically have about 3 to 5 children with really challenging behaviors, and they all have them for different reasons. Key thing is when you use the meaning-making machine, you have to look at the weaknesses, but the strengths. Just because a child has a weakness and a challenging behavior, they could be the leader of the classroom. They could be the one to help another child. When you look at the negative, you'll never get to the positive. So what I would say is use the other children in your classroom that don't have challenging behaviors. So we use peacekeepers for older kids and problem solvers for preschool all the way up. And they're problem solvers of the day, and they can help children with challenging behaviors. It's not just you. You're not alone. Look at the strengths of those children. For early childhood, we typically have 2 teachers in a room. So then one teacher should be near, the typical classroom is about 5, right? So then one teacher's near, right, kind of near 3, another teacher's near 3. And it's not like you're shadowing them and right next to the kid hovering. You're just in the vicinity in case someone gets hurt, that you can intercept a hit or a bite or a push before it happens. When I have kids who are, like say in a classroom, it's 20 kids, and I have those 5. My assistant is with 3, and I'm with 3 or 2. If Bobby and Billy are in the corner arguing and they don't attack each other, I tell them to come to me. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to be able to balance the needs of everyone in the classroom. So since Billy and Bobby don't throw chairs, I'll just be like, here, Billy, Bobby, you guys are having a challenge. Guys, come over here and let's problem solve. Billy and Bobby or Mary and Susie are compliant. They come to you. So use your knowledge. Teachers have a crystal ball. Use your crystal ball or your observations, and you know what children are going to do better than I do. So sit down and think, well, Mary's going to smack somebody and Bobby's going to eat the blocks when I give it to him, right? Like in that earlier example I showed of the rocks, you know who's going to eat rocks. When lessons don't work, it's because we haven't used our good observation skills, and that's the secret sauce.
I love that. I think that's awesome. So kind of a little bit along those lines. So there's a woman chimed in, and her question was kind of more of a statement, and I'm not sure if she intended it being a question, but I would love to throw it at you. So a woman said, an attendee said, I had a swearing child, and she exhausted all teaching alternative sayings, treats, walks, everything. And she said nothing worked. She went home mentally exhausted and she was stressed out.
No. For that situation, I will say teachers, parents, therapists do great strategies. They don't give them enough time to work. Sometimes you're doing too many strategies at once. You have to give that we found that 4 to 6 weeks is a sweet spot for trying a few strategies or one strategy in each section. Change you, change the child, change the consequences. And then you're not good at the strategy yet. So you have to give time, so that 4 to 6 weeks, we don't make sure it's not too many strategies. Actually, you're doing a good strategy, but you're doing it incorrectly. Or look at the actual strategy, problem solve about it, and think about how you can adapt it for that child. Maybe it's a great strategy, but it needs to be adapted more. So I would say try it for the 6 weeks, meet together with your team, and then say, this isn't working. What do we need to adapt for the child? How do we individualize this more? Like, for example, if the child loves, that's why I have to know what the child loves. If they love race cars, I have to embed a race car into the social story to make it more meaningful for the child. So it's not that the strategy didn't work, it's that you didn't work the strategy. And that means just reflecting on the strategy for cycles. And sometimes it takes 5 cycles, sometimes it takes 2 cycles, sometimes it takes 20 cycles. It depends on the degree of, I guess, messiness, right? And the severity of the issue and the problem. So I would just keep reminding teachers and remind teachers, parents, everyone on the call, behavior gets worse before it gets better. So you think that it's not working, and it actually is.
I love that. And I think we'll round out with one last question. And I think this is a popular one. And I've seen this on many webinars in the past, especially those about challenging behaviors. The question is, how do we get parents on board? So it can be, teachers, you can be trying your darnest during the day, and then the child goes home and the parents don't continue it. And so they just come back as a brand new slate every day.
Right. Yes, this is a huge one as well. And so what I would say is that you have to assess the parent's capacity. Some parents that we work with, like I mentioned, are in shelters. They're homeless. How am I could do Tucker Turtle, or I could do the dragon breathing at school. But if you're in a homeless shelter, what is the capacity that you can actually implement that strategy? So I would check for parent capacity first. If the parent is going through cancer, you have to make sure that the parent doesn't have something, or their job is difficult, or they work night shift, or they're working 70 hours a week. So first assess if the parent has the capacity to try the strategy. Then really hash out what is the parent routines, because parents often don't see how dragon breathing can fit in their daily routine. Right. So I have to make the dragon. I say, okay, girl, tell me your routine. And she's like, well, when we're in the car, I'm driving. I was like, then you just sing a dragon breathing song. Girl, you don't need that dragon breathing, actually the actual tube. We'll have that at school. So I was like, dragon breathing. Oh man, I can't wait to do dragon breathing. And that's something parents could do. It's doable. So you have to say if your strategy is actually doable and fits in the parent's routines. Yes, they'll do it if it fits. The last one is you are not losing when that child goes home. You are making a difference. Every child needs one adult. You are teaching them an alternative way to behave. Every time they come to your classroom, they're spending time with you and they're learning something new.
I love that. That's beautiful. I love that, you're not losing when they go home. And I think what's so key of what you just said is that it has to fit in your routine. If you think of any change, whether it has to do with your child or your anything unrelated to your child, it has to fit into your routine for it to actually happen, or for you to actually stick with it. So that's great. Well, Angela, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for your questions. We have just a couple of reminders before we pop off. So just one last reminder, go to griffinhouse.com, pick up Angela's new book, just launched today, called Push Past It, and you get 20% off. Make sure you use the code BookChats at checkout. And again, your 20% off is for site-wide. Join the community and go to the Ed Webinar archives for the recording, slides, chat log, and any resources after this Ed Webinar. You can join. It's free. edweb.net/bookchats, and that's our community. And again, you can find the recording of this webinar, recording of all different types, every webinar that we've ever done with other early childhood experts. So we have lots more Ed webinars coming this summer. So make sure you stay tuned. As I said, Early Learning Book Chats is just at edweb.net/bookchats, where you can find, you can earn more CE credits, or excuse me, more CE certificates just by watching and participating in our webinars. We have loads and loads of webinars, others that are about challenging behaviors, if that is what is really interesting you these days. Some for parents, many, many others. So thank you again for joining us today, and we hope that that you have a great day, and head over to edweb.net/bookchats to join our community, and griffinhouse.com to buy Angela's new book. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you.